just a quick thing. With show of hands, how many of you are founders? And investors? And how about operators? Perfect. Thank you. So, quick introduction about everyone. We have Dan here. He's a CRO and he has over 20 years of experience. He took one company into IPO and was part of 5 acquisitions, one by Salesforce, one by Under Armour. Then we have Sabba. He's a sales leader for almost 2 decades. And he helped company from early stage VC all the way to IPO as well. He started as a BDR and now he's the chief sales officer. Then we have Matt. He's a behavioral scientist turned chief operating officer. And he's transforming how leaders across the modern workforce learn and develop the future of workforce. Thank you. So here's how the event's going to go. I'm going to ask around 7 to 8 different questions in the beginning, and then I'm going to open it for you guys to ask any questions to our panel. Sounds good? Perfect. So not to be too cliche or anything, so I'm going to go directly into the topic here. What do you guys think, given your background, is the biggest time waster in B2B sales at the moment?
You looking at me?
Yeah.
All right. Anything that takes your time away from actually generating revenue directly, anything that can be done, anything that's time consuming that is part of the sales process. So for example, before AI came and you wanted to know who are the 100 people that I want to reach out to today, how do I get their phone information, their contact information, email information, all that stuff that companies like Apollo and others have solved. All that shit just kills you. You could spend 20 minutes just learning and understanding and finding out what you need to know so that you can reach out to somebody and act like you know what you're talking about and make some sense and be valuable. If you turn that into your whole day, you're lucky if you can get 20 outreaches out the door. In one day, 20, that's not very many, especially when people don't really want to receive them. So anything like that, it's just brutal.
What do you guys think?
I mean, yeah, lead scoring, finding leads, it's an absolute waste of time. Like I've managed BDRs. I was a BDR myself a long time ago, and it's all just manual work. The way I see AI working is building custom GPTs that are actually creating research for the prospects you're going after, and those custom GPTs start training to build discovery questions for the people you're talking to. So it gets hyper-personalized, so you're not spending that time researching and continuously going onto LinkedIn and Google, Crunchbase, and all of that. We did some experiments recently where our team was seeing something like, instead of spending 6 hours a day and then spending the last 2 hours of the day prospecting, they're doing 2-3 hours a day of quick, fast automation to get the information they need. So that's probably the biggest. It's like the manual entries into Salesforce, CRMs, lead scoring, et cetera. So,
yeah, no, I would echo what these guys are saying. In the last 2 years, we've had conversations with hundreds of sales leaders. One of the big things that I think I would name is the biggest time waster is the failure of the current tool landscape. We've created thousands of platforms and dashboards and tools for helping to organize, target, research, and particularly for remote teams, the amount of spaces that you have to go into in order to just get work done, in order to communicate with your team, in order to plan what you're gonna do, we're not respecting sales leaders' attention because we're fragmenting it across too many places.
So let's say a lot of this work was automated by AI, right? All the research and everything. But then we have agents, our AI agents, as I like to call it, is doing all the outreach for you as well, right? So how would you feel like if when somebody reaches out to you, it's not actually a person, but it's an AI?
no, that's bullshit. At the end of the day, outbound cannot be fully automated. It has to be the human touch, the personalization, the relationship building. You can get close enough to the finish line. I think AI agents can be really powerful in the beginning for early conversations, doing the pre-qualifiers, but there's a time and place where, in my opinion, outbound has to be real and human, and AI can't do that.
Which part of it would you think is that when the AI is doing all the outbound for you? So which part would you like the human to come in the loop?
I mean, very early on, I believe that cold outreach is not that great because it needs to be hyper-personalized. The buyers are smarter. I just saw, I might pull it up on my phone, McKinsey did this report where majority of companies that are buying products from $500,000 to $1 million would rather do it all digital. So there's a problem there. Yeah, right?
G2 had one too.
Yeah, and so that's pretty insane to like think that I'm going to buy something for $1 million and not talk to a human. So there's this like balance of like AI is going to help, but at the same time, like you need the personalization. So that's my.
Okay.
Let me add to that. I think you need to meet the buyer the way they want to buy. I think that too many companies are selling their product and they force their sales process onto the customer, especially at the higher end enterprise. You deal with a company like Oracle, or you're selling to Cisco. They're telling you how they want to buy your product. You don't push your sales process on them. They'll tell you when they're ready to sign, as opposed to, I need you to sign by this quarter because I need to make my number because we need to satisfy our board. They don't give a rat's ass.
Yeah.
So you have to follow them. If your buyer prefers, maybe from a personal preference, to speak with a non-human, give it to them if you can. If they prefer to speak to an actual human, you give it to them. You meet the buyer where they want to be. Customer service, right? You gotta give what the customer wants.
Yeah, matching the buyer's journey to the seller's journey versus the other way around is very important.
Yeah, show of hands, we're all consumers, right? Who would rather deal with a non-human at the beginning of a sales process? Let's say you're buying a car or a washing machine, something that's a durable good as a consumer. How many would rather talk to a human and just have a good conversation with a good sales rep, or how many don't? Human? Okay, so probably about 25%, and the rest I'm assuming you'd rather not talk to it. So that study you're talking about, the reverse of that study, G2 and Q3 came out with a study that said something like, and look it up, it's a great report, something like 72% of enterprise buyers don't want to talk to a sales rep because they don't feel like they can trust the sales rep. They want to do it themselves. They want to be able to research on the website. They want to call references. They want to do everything but talk to a sales rep and self-serve their buying process. And then they know they have to speak to somebody to procure the transaction, which is usually not a sales rep. It could just be some procurement department. And that's how people are starting to buy these days. So,
Yeah, the research backs this up. So when you look at the last 10 years of research, particularly with call centers and healthcare, you ask somebody, like, how'd you feel about this message? And they score it like, oh, this was like, I score this with level of empathy, this was in terms of helpfulness, and they tell you it's from a doctor. They score it differently if they tell you this is from a machine. It feels disrespectful. It feels like you tried to trick me, and now it feels like I'm less likely to read it. So willingness to want to read goes down 60 to 80% when you know it's a machine. And that means whether somebody has told you or it just kind of looks like they dropped it into GPT and you can kind of feel like GPT wrote it for you, where users, whether it's like a patient getting a message from a doctor or an employee getting a message from a manager or a buyer getting a message from a salesperson, where it is okay is if someone tells you this came from a person but they used an AI tool to help them. That actually doesn't impact somebody's willingness to read or trust at all. I think that's the piece that we need to harness is like, we shouldn't rush too far into the let's automate all my task train. We should first ask where are the opportunities where I can actually augment what I'm doing? And the piece here is we fall too much as far as the startup ecosystem trying to build tools for salespeople, fall into the trap of sales enablement. Let me make the things you're doing easier. And now we've kind of switched into buyer enablement, which is easier and more efficient. But what buyers actually want, I'm actually skeptical that what buyers want is to be able to do everything on their own in an easier way. What we actually want is to do less. We want buyer empowerment. So I want things that are so hyper-targeted to me, that you've used AI tools to do data analysis about what I want and when I want to be reached out to about what things in which way, so that my attention is more respected. So instead of thinking about just how do we streamline the process for us and think about that it's a high volume outreach play, instead how can we use those tools to help us with targeting?
So let's take a hypothetical scenario, right, with your trust part. Let's say 5 years from now, I have an AI, I'm selling you something, you're buying something. If my AI is talking to your AI, would you rather have my AI pretend like it's a human, or would you rather have it know, okay, this is an AI reaching out to you? Before you answer that, how many of you would rather have the AI pretend as a human? Show of hands. Okay, nobody. How many would you actually like it to tell you, okay, I'm an AI and I'm reaching out to you because this matches you? Perfect. So now, what do you think? Which part?
What is it reaching out to me for?
Whatever you need. It's matching your buyer journey.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the thing, right? Because if it's reaching out to me and it's saying, hey, you just went to Starbucks for the 10th time this week. Did you know that this Starbucks on this side of town actually has 50% off? That's really interesting. If it tells me like, hey, you just walked out of your therapist's office for the 3rd time this week. Are you doing okay? It starts to feel invasive, right? So I think that there's what you're reaching out to me for does matter.
Let me adjust my question a bit then. What if you're a CEO at a company, right? And you have $250,000 contract, and you're looking for the different vendors in the market, and then I have that product coming to you at the exact prices, exact terms, whatever you need. How would you make a decision based on that?
I mean, in theory, if you're getting me the information I need at the moment when I most want it, I don't really care who's reaching out to me, right? Whether you're, though what I would want is I don't want you to pretend to be something you're not. So sure, if it's an AI, tell me you're an AI. Fine. Yeah.
I think we go back to one size doesn't fit all. You need to know your business, you need to know your customers, you can try different things, but you really want to listen to your market and understand what his preferences are. And depending on what you're selling, who you're selling it to, your answers for how best to serve your market are going to be different than perhaps the next company. And but that's been like that for years and years. It's not about all of a sudden AI's coming in and everybody's going to use machines to do all of their work. It's for some things, sure. For others, definitely not. I don't want you knowing that I came from my therapist.
Right.
You know what? I don't really care, actually. He's a good guy, though.
I think if the AI agents can help, like, it's essentially an automating a mutual action plan. So a big thing in sales, especially in enterprise sales, is getting into the buyer's journey and building a mutual action plan that says, hey, buyer, these are the steps that we need to take to get this deal across the line. Are you aligned here with this? What are the steps? Who's involved? So mutual action plan, usually like a Google Doc, and there's some companies that build it, but if the AI agents can do that for me or for them and get me to a automated mutual action plan, I think that's really powerful.
Especially if it's quicker,
100%.
cheaper.
Exactly.
I remember not too long ago, I was managing my budget for sales and marketing, and I'm looking over the spreadsheet, and there were 11 tools just in sales, forget about marketing, they had like 9 more, that we were using to complete the stack. 11 tools. And then I looked at all the contracts that I had with each of them. They all have different start dates and end dates and renewals and all that. And the amount of money that I was spending was just ridiculous. And then to try to bolt them all together, I had a full-time employee who would manage all of our tools. And she was doing some RevOps stuff too, but it was insane. And then I met you. And I said, so I don't need this one, I don't need this one, I don't need this one. You're like, nope. Now we're talking. So, you know, and that's how we know each other.
Awesome. Nice
So-
plug.
So one question, I'm going to do a bit of my own market research, right? So let's say if you have, right now we have chatbot interface with all the ChatGPT and everything else. How would you as a sales leader would like to interact with AI? Like, would you like something like Clay, where it's super complicated? Would you like it to be, okay, you can see the mouse is moving, it's filling all the work for you. How would you like to interact with AI in sales?
You guys gonna look at me again? Don't look at me. I have to think this one through. How would I like it? I wanted to do the things that are wasting time for me or my team. That's what I wanted to do. But I don't want it to replace the human touch that is often necessary in the sales process with my team or with my customers. There's something about sitting down and having a conversation with you about how you're doing, you're a sales rep working potentially on my team, hypothetically. I want to have that conversation. I want to look you in the eye. I want to take you out to lunch, and let's talk about how things are going, what's working, what's not working. If you just depersonalize the whole process because you can, that doesn't make it right. But then there are things that you don't want to deal with me, and I don't want to deal with you. And quite frankly, if you can get me the report and you don't have to do any work, and I get the information I need, that can help you get out in the marketplace and go make more money. So productivity, there's a balance there between productivity and personalization. When I say personal, I mean like, human contact. So, and we're going to figure that out over time. There's going to be, you guys know the commercial, is it Progressive with Jennifer Coolidge, the White Lotus lady? She calls into customer service and she says, "Are you a robot?" And the woman says, "How do I know you're not a robot, Jennifer?" And Jennifer goes, "How do I prove that I'm not a robot?" And it's a funny commercial. And that's what we're talking
I was really hoping you were going to use the voice.
No.
I stand by what I said earlier. You cannot fully automate outbound, and you can't fully automate the sales process. If AI can get me to not do the researching, the lead scoring, the prospecting, give me all that information, and then let me compile a very personalized, high-touch, thoughtful message or positioning, that's what I wanted to do. Just stop. Like, I want my SDRs, I want my sales team to focus on being the best subject matter experts in their industry. That's it. And then that's going to build the relationship, the rapport to be able to hopefully close the business.
So what would you like is that essentially a research assistant, kind of, is giving you all the information, giving templates, recommendation, like this is how you reach out to, this is how you should reach out, and then you want to go in there, adjust it, and then send it out.
Absolutely. Like, here's my tone, here's how I want to reach out to it, here's what typical buyers in this space, this is how they're buying. Put this like nice ribbon gift over to me, and I'll take over and do the personal touch and the relationship building. There's an art and the science of the sale. We all know this, I think, and it's kind of cliche, but with AI, like, we're going to get away from the art a little bit, and we need to become even better at it.
It's really interesting. In the last 2 years, in our conversations with sales leaders, I was really surprised by seeing the similarities between how they were talking about what they wanted from AI tools and how current artists and content creators are talking about it. Ultimately, that they want to operate more in their zone of genius, right? And when you talk about people that are in sales, they're master relationship builders. They're masters at understanding what their users need and how that connects to whatever they're selling, what those value props are. They're master storytellers, relationship builders. And so I think what's going to be really interesting is similar to like an artist. You have to audience build to sell any of your art. So I think we're going to start to see some of those lines start to blur. Similar to if you're an artist, you have to build your audience, you have to know what they want, you have to know what they want to engage with, when and how, and then you have to be able to create the sort of content that your audience is going to want. I think we're going to start to see that more with products and services in the way that we see it with media.
Interesting. So last question, but if you guys have any questions, get them ready after this. So let's say if you have, right now with AI and everything, I personally think we definitely need personal brand, especially for B2B sales as well. Where do you see, how important factor you see personal branding is going to play in this, and how should market adjust to it?
Well, it relates to the thing I just said, right? A big reason for that, of like why we've seen personal brand having to matter, it's important to understand the context. For the last 4 decades, you've seen trust in institutions plummet since the Nixon years. And that's not because people are silly and aloof and skeptical for no reason. They've seen their banking institutions, their governments lie to them. And so people look at businesses and they any sort of institution that has harmed them or has hurt trust, they treat them the same way. So if you're seen as like a corporate entity, people see you the same as they want to see Amazon, and they see Bank of America, and they see the government. And so you have to understand that. So how do you tackle that? Well, in order for me to get you to buy something, you have to trust that what you're going to buy from me is going to work for you. And so in order for you to even be interested in that conversation, you have to trust that I'm going to want to understand and respect you. And so that's where personal brand becomes necessary, because you have to be able to have that brand that gives people a starting point for them to want to trust, to be engaged in the conversation of thinking about, do I want to buy here?
I think personal brand is huge. I think you used a word, trust. I will add credibility, and I tell my teams, you need to build credibility so you can earn trust, and without it, you're gonna struggle. If your company doesn't deliver what you say you can deliver, that's gonna hurt not only your company, but your personal brand. So it's really important that you balance and make sure that you're doing yourself the right thing. I mean, we don't all, it's not 1950 anymore. You don't work for the same company for 50 years and get a toaster when you're done. You know, you work for multiple companies during the course of your career. And you're the most important brand in your life, your own personal stuff, what you do on LinkedIn, how you show up, you know, how much thought leadership you do. I agree with all that you're saying, and you've got the research slant to it, which is really good, so you can actually prove what you say. I just say it.
I'll back you up.
I think your personal brand is critical, and you use all the same tools to deliver your personal brand benefits and credibility as you would your companies. And like again, not to do the plug, but your product can help me get out and tell people what I do or what I'm looking for personally. I can also use it for a company to have the entire team use it. And there's lots of products out there where you could do that, but invest in yourself heavily. Because we've been watching some of these big companies just unload people over email. Yeah, but I worked for you for 13 years. I'm not going to name any company names because why? They've worked 13 years. I've been here, busted my ass for you, and you send me an email that tells me that I'm shit out of luck and I'm without a job and I'll get a few months severance and that's it. Where was the loyalty? I think loyalty is gone. So you got to take care of yourself. Use the tools.
I'm gonna be a little bit of a curmudgeon here. I do believe branding is important, but there's the branding that you're talking about. I think is powerful. It's personal branding for selfish reasons in a good way. I can't trust companies because they can lay me off at any time. When companies say we're family, we're not. That's bullshit. We're teams, and the company can cut you anytime. So personal branding for my own survival as a career-minded person, great.
Yep.
Some of the best salespeople I know are never spending time on LinkedIn. Like, there's so much noise. Everybody's just regurgitating the same thing. There's not a lot of value. So where do you build that brand? So I think about that of like, yes, brand is great. I post on LinkedIn sometimes and I like it and I think it's important. But at the same time, like, I think about early stage companies that don't have sales teams. What is that brand? Well, the brand is the founder or the CEO who's the founder-led sales. This person has to not only be an industry expert, that's their brand. Their product has to be reliable. I don't know what I'm getting at, except that I just don't think that branding is always the most powerful thing with sales because it depends on the industry. Like if you're selling into government, they don't give a shit if you're posting on LinkedIn, right? Like they just want to know that you know the RFP process and this, like that sort of stuff. So I think there's a place for it. I don't disagree. I just think that it's not black and white.
But I don't think we're suggesting that LinkedIn is the only place where you build your brand. I'm building my brand right here. Hopefully you guys will want to reach out and connect with me, and maybe one of you will hire me, and maybe you see me as somebody who's a thought leader, who's got some good ideas, good experience. I'll meet 40, 50 people today, and then I'll go to the next event. I went to one last night. It was an awesome event. I met a ton of people there. I'm sending articles out, suggestions and ideas. I'm connecting other people. That's all my brand.
Yeah.
And LinkedIn's part of that.
But it all goes back to digital. Like this isn't scalable. Like you can't go to every single event and meet every person. So it always goes back to like what's your online presence in this day and age.
Sure.
So that's LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, whatever your platform is. So again, I don't disagree with you. I think it's really powerful to have a brand. I just think there's a time and place and how you do it, the tastefulness of building a brand versus someone who just wants to show their face and post, BS.
I think word of mouth is key. I think about in my community, we've got landscapers and plumbers and electricians and pool people who are amazing. And you'll hang out at a cocktail party and you'll say, ooh, you know what? Or you'll say, hey, who does your lawn? And someone will say, oh, you gotta go see Ray. Ray's amazing. Ray's the man. His brand is excellent because he treats his customers nice.
Right.
He's fair. People are talking about him. He works the community. He's not on LinkedIn. He's a landscaper.
I hear you guys circling back to the same place where we started this conversation, which was the key with sales is about understanding what the buyer wants and where the buyer is. And so when you're talking about brand, it's understanding like where can you have interactions with the people you most need to be interacting with, and how can you make sure you're interacting with them in a way that's building that credibility and trust.
Perfect.
That's a really good point.
Thank you. I'm definitely going to start my TikTok journey now. So, all of you guys, who has a question? Yeah, go.
I have two quick ones. One is if you have a favorite sales methodology that you've been teaching like your reps throughout your career, which one is it? And two, obviously it will differ for each, but in terms of the sequences, like what does it look like for you? Is it like email, LinkedIn, then cold call, videos? Like what have you experimented with recently?
That's not a quick question, by the way.
20 seconds, go.
The first question, wait, sorry, what was your first question?
Sales methodology.
Oh, methodologies. I mean, there's so many of them out there. I don't prescribe to just one. There's everything from like Challenger to Sandler, across the board. I think it all comes down to who you're buying, and what you're selling, or who you're selling to and what you're selling. I do a little bit of everything. At the end of the day, it's consultative. I need to help the prospects that I'm talking to understand their pain points and problems, what their business needs are, and how I can help them. So you can put whatever methodology you want, but those three are probably the most powerful. And then back to credibility, blah, blah, brand and all of that, that's important. But I personally don't have a methodology that I'm like gung-ho on. I think I take a little bit of all. Again, find the value, pain points, business needs, and how we can help. Your second question, sequences. There's no like one right answer, but the two things that I will always say, there should always be a phone call. Every single time in your sequence, you gotta pick up the phone. I don't care if you're the founder, you're selling a $100 million or $5,000 product, you wanna pick up the phone. You have to do that. A combination of multi-channel, LinkedIn or whatever that platform is, email, calls, whatever other touch points that you can think of. And then I would say on average, you want to do somewhere like 6 to 10 touches. Anything less than that, you're not getting enough like time to make sure that people are responding to you. I know some people that are doing high rates at like 13 touch points, and some are doing high rates at 10, but that 6 to 10 is probably the most effective in my opinion. Again, that's a big conversation to talk about, but at a high level, that's how I would think about it.
My answer is his answer. Exactly. Exactly. Yes. So one of the things that I joke around with, and I get a ton of inbound from people trying to sell me stuff. And they'll call me up and they'll start immediately going into a Challenger sale. Or I'll be in a sales process. It's the Challenger sale. It's the strategic sale. It's the Sandler sale. And I'll say to them, you were Challenger trained, aren't you? Yeah. Like, you're a freaking robot.
Yeah.
I have the Dan Hurwitz approach, which is I took all of them and I picked out the pieces that I liked of each, and I have my own approach, and I will tell anybody that works for me to do the same, but I will coach and help them and say, these are things that work for me, fit my personality, my style. You got to develop what works for you, and it takes a long time to do that, and which is essentially what you're doing. But in the end, people are buying for two reasons. Number one, to make more money. Number two, to cut costs. All is said and done, those are the reasons why people buy stuff. If you can show them how they can do either or both, and you can do it in a way that they appreciate, and you can do it with trust and credibility and trust, and you can make it easy for the buyer to make the decision, then you're going to win the business. And of course, you need to have a product that can support what, you know.
So, yes, how about you, sir?
Okay, so I'm going to press on this a little bit more because I think, the world has changed, okay? So you have AI tools that are helping SDRs write things, whether it's blog posts or intro emails. So suddenly everyone's like skilled at writing. It sounds the same. You get a level of personalization, right? Yeah. You have people like me that are using things like Optory, so I can use my phone again, right?
Yep.
Just opt me out of 300 marketing databases, so I'm not in Zoom Info and everything else anymore. I don't have my cell phone number. There are great things, and I'll give a shout out to User Gems over there, which they tell you when to call people.
User Gems is great.
Fantastic product if you're not using it like singularly like.
You can pay me later.
Your
Pay me later.
You have email blindness. You have like you can't get people on the cell. You can't get people on their phone. They're not answering. Like, what are you doing that's driving, intros and engagement and driving, pipeline? Like, what are your, top 2 ways to engage? Maybe just go like right down the line. Like, okay, so events like this, but they're not scalable, right? So like, how do you create pipeline in this new world where everyone's got access to the same AI tools?
Thought leadership.
Hmm.
Content is key. I think the more valuable, easy to digest content you're providing your customer. The way I look at it now is you could go out there and you can make 100 phone calls, send out 1,000 emails, and do them using AI, and that's good. You should do that in a appropriate, show me you know me type of way. But what you really want is to get the fish jumping in the boat. So how do you do that? So you got to go and spread the ocean with your thought leadership and your wisdom and your value as much as you can. And the more you do that, people start talking. I also will include social selling in with that. So this goes back to LinkedIn, which is where most of the conversations are taking place. So if you're selling widgets, you want to go to the widget groups within LinkedIn and see if you can find out where those who are in those conversations about widgets. And like some stuff, comment on some stuff, throw something out there that's provocative, challenge somebody, get yourself into the conversation. So social selling is key, and there's an art to that. And then I think events, conferences, trade shows where you can actually meet people and have a cocktail and have that that person-to-person physical approach. That's never going away. But to your point, anything you can do to improve productivity and efficiency using AI, do it. Just be careful that you're not getting hallucinated and you're not saying the wrong thing to the wrong person or using wrong information and not even know that happened, and then have somebody irate call you up and say, what the heck did you say that for? Why did you do that? Like, I didn't. The computer did. It's not my fault. So just, that's what I would say. Answer your question?
I mean, yes, but I can counter it a little.
We can have the conversation
Yeah.
afterwards. Happy to do it. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. Content, social selling, conferences and events are my top 3.
Perfect.
Sit down.
Yeah, last question?
There are 2 of us.
Okay, let's go. You can go first.
So, there's one topic that you left out of that equation. You indicated that you don't see complete outbound campaigns being done completely by AI. I mildly disagree, specifically because we're a voice AI company and we have customers doing that. The reason that what you said is, and I understand it because I get that response from a lot of people, is that most of the outbound sales processes that are voice AI based today are lack of experience. And when I say experience, I'm not talking about how much traction they had over the years of doing these campaigns, it's the consumer experience receiving that call. So the thing is, for example, we developed our own office receptionist. Our entire office is a voice AI operated completely. It will transfer calls, it will handle customer care and so on. And what we noticed, which is really impactful, was we started giving it a personality. So it's not your typical ladder-based concept, and it works differently. And what we noticed is that people would call her, it's a female voice receptionist, and ask her for a date, and she will respond. And I know it's crazy, it's funky, it's ridiculous, right? Why would anybody do it? Because she says at the beginning, the AI receptionist, why are you asking for a date? Ridiculous. But people try to do that. And what we noticed is that on outbound campaigns, that where the voice AI had some kind of personality to it, and it was basically an assistive technology to the SDR itself. So it was an outbound campaign, the SDR was there, but the AI was a third party in that conference call. It was assisting with getting information and bringing the stuff that the SDR takes a lot of time to do. That is where we saw it the most powerful. Now, my question is, today, we're what we would call Gen AI 1.5, which is the ladder-based information systems and so on, which is incredibly slow and kind of sluggish. We're moving on to agent-based, which is the Gen AI 2.0. And do you see that as a significant changer in the market, specifically with outbound sales, specifically with customer success? And that is the interesting part, because I see in the next 5 years, You know, 2030, 80% of customer success, customer sales are going to be AI based. You can't do anything about it. Be it inbound or outbound, it's going to be 80%. That's it. And the faster we decide that we're going to adopt it, I think, better for everybody. Because it's going to happen. And I want your opinion as to what that will do.
So I'm gonna take this one first because I have an agent-based company. Yeah. So
Awesome.
yeah. So I personally think I'm biased, of course. Of course, it's gonna move more towards agents, and your entire sales outbound, in my opinion, is gonna be automated. Most of the work. Of course, you're going to call. It's gonna be a real person there, but mostly like outbound research, everything that's being done by AI agents. Now, to answer your question, like, what was the last question? Sorry. Middle of it because it's a long
Sorry?
question. What was the question? It was a long question.
Is that, how do you see this sales process evolving as we progress into Gen
Yeah.
AI 2.0,
Yeah.
which
So,
is different?
I think it's going to be much faster because right now a lot of time is being wasted on getting meeting with the wrong people. They don't need your stuff. So we're going to match the buyer journey. We'll know exactly when somebody needs something and then reach out to them exactly what they need, when they need it. And yeah, I think that's going to increase your sales, increase your output. But at the same time, you're going to need much less resources to get to that point. So higher revenue, less time spent, and yeah. What do you guys think?
I mean, I think you said, I spend majority of my time at like venture studios, accelerators with founders in 0 to 1. You cannot, you even said it, you cannot automate the full outbound process. You are an assistant to the agents, whatever you want to call them, are assistants to the SDRs who are humans, real people. I stand by that. And if I'm buying a $100,000 product, I'm going to talk to a human when I have an issue, plain and simple. And maybe I'm just old school, I don't know, but that's my thought.
That's fine, I'm as old as you are. It's okay.
I like his answer. Again, it's who's your market, how do they want to buy, what's comfortable for them, push the envelope as much as you can, do the things that take a lot of time. I mean, for years and years, senior executives have had executive assistants, call them whatever you want. People who would do all the work that was not in the best interest of that senior executive's time. And so that before that senior executive would go out perhaps for a meeting, somebody would hand that person exactly what they need to have in order to crush the meeting. All done by somebody else. Well, guess what? We figured out technology that can dehumanize that. Great, use it. But do you think that senior executive's customer or whoever they were meeting with wants to deal with a robot? Probably not. So there's a time and place. But, automate whatever you can without compromising the customer's experience and how they want to buy.
Yeah, I think it's really sexy to sell people the idea that all of outbound is going to be automated, right? And an AI BDR doesn't have to sleep, doesn't have to take weekends, works however many hours you want to, and costs you way less than a team of BDRs. But the reality is, so many people are going to have access to those tools, and at the same time, as those tools get more accessible, the other thing that's going to be out there are scammers, fraud, disinformation. So whenever I'm talking to something that is not a person, where I can't further identify credibility that I'm not getting screwed over, there's a big risk there. There's a massive assumption that we're going to be able to build enough trust with enough companies that people are going to engage at every single touch point of an inbound process with a machine, and that they're going to want to engage the same way that they would with a person. So I think, obviously, automate as much as you can without watering down the experience, but it's a much more messy answer and dynamic question that depends on each business, because you're not going to fully eliminate the person touch points. So it's much more about zooming out, continually thinking about your pipeline and your processes and asking where does the AI-driven process come in? Where does the person come in? And you actually are probably putting yourself in a really messy spot if you're not thinking about where the person is going to be. If you only think about how we can automate everything and not think about, okay, and how is that going to relate to the in-person touch point, I haven't seen any evidence that suggests that we're on track to that. So you're probably setting yourself up for a mess.
Anybody ever buy a Tesla?
Yes.
It's a beautiful example.
I
Yeah.
bought a Tesla back in January of last year, and the purchasing experience was a frickin' disaster for me. Because I couldn't get somebody on the phone to help me to figure stuff out that was a little tricky, because it wasn't just a simple cookie cutter scenario. And it was really frustrating. And then when I unloaded it and got a Rivian, same thing. The days of just going to the dealership and saying to the person, just sell me the car, this is what I want, give me a good price, and you could have that conversation, go in, pick it up, you know, get a bow on it. There's something about that. But again, the next person, maybe, you know, you
I
guys,
kind of like that.
you liked it?
I did.
I liked it until I got snagged and I couldn't get a frickin' person on the phone.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Well,
That's
and
when I got pissed off.
it's a really good point, because the other piece to name here is it's becoming cheaper than ever to start a company, right? So today, if you want to have a mobile phone, there's a limited number of players as far as providers of the service as well as the hardware. And so if Apple tells you you can only talk to somebody at a call center, you can only go into the Apple store, you're not going to get frustrated enough, you're going to say, fine, I'm going to go get another phone. Because like they have 80% of the market and you want to have an iPhone. So like it's very rare that somebody is frustrated enough with the customer experience there that they say, fine, I'm going to get an Android. Doesn't happen a lot. Also doesn't happen a lot with Verizon, despite how frustrating anyone who's called into a Verizon help center can probably attest. But what's going to start to happen is with AI making starting businesses easier, there's going to be more competition. And so being able to maintain trust with your users becomes that much more important. And what we do know is that when you call into a call center and it's hard to get on the phone with somebody, it's a frustrating experience. People actually have a frustrating experience for call centers regardless. Their trust in businesses rarely ever goes up because of an interaction with the call center. The reason for that is because it feels like a great example of the betrayal that everyone's feeling in the modern world. The people that are actually responsible for the problem I'm experiencing from my relationship with this business are hiding. And I can't talk to them. And I'm giving them money. And so if you're going to further remove the people who are responsible for the thing that I'm buying, and now you're making it easier for me to find competitors, I think what then is going to happen is you're going to, great, if you can make it easier for me anytime I call somebody and it's a 40-minute wait, if there were more airlines, I would never fly one particular airline ever again, who I will resist
Rhymes
naming.
with.
Am I going to do it?
She has questions. She's been patient.
It's back to personal branding and everything. So, for example, if you worked at a certain company for like X amount of years, and you already have associated personal brand with that company, like you mentioned earlier, right? Like you worked so many years with this company, and everybody associates you with the company.
Yep.
But if I like to detach myself from that company and start my own personal branding, like Christina with a K, man with double T, you know, that's his own personal branding. What would be suggestions to help you to detach yourself from certain branding to have your own brand, personal brand?
I wouldn't detach yourself from it.
From the person, from the company?
It's cutting off part of your story, which ultimately waters down both your authenticity and you're probably leaving value off the table. So instead, like, what are the pieces from that brand and your experiences within that brand that you can speak to, even if it was a totally horrible experience? There's a bunch of news stories out there. It was a terrible culture. They did these terrible things, and maybe you were a part of it. Great, talk about that. Talk about the learning experiences you had there. That can be part of your brand. How did that lean into what you then did next? What did you learn from that? What do you want to help others with because of that? Like, how can you harness all of your experiences from the past to then bring more authenticity to be able to then connect to more people that might be interested in that stuff?
I would push back a little bit. I
Push
agree
away.
with that. I would agree with the using your previous experiences at a company, but the company doesn't own my LinkedIn, right? So I can say whatever I want, like obviously in the right respectful parameters. I mean, others would probably disagree there too, but the personal brand on like LinkedIn, for example, is my personal brand, Sabba's personal brand, not Sabba who works at XYZ company. And I believe the best way to build a personal brand is not to talk about your company, but talk about the industry and talk about the expertise within that industry. And then they're going to naturally gravitate to like, oh, Sabba's an expert in X and he works at Y. now I'm connecting the dots versus like, hey, look at me, look at my awesome logo, and like come to me now. It's a little different with smaller companies, founders, or whatever. I'm talking like when you're maybe a little more mature state of a company, it's like a couple hundred employees or something. So that's my personal view on branding or personal branding. It's that, like, it's about me, it's about my expertise and what I know as subject matter expert within a specific industry. And that will naturally, social selling, get me into like, I like Sabba, I want to buy his product because, not because he's pushing the product, but because he knows about my industry. So.
Back to what I said before, you treat your own personal brand very similarly to B2B product, right? And you know it well, better than anybody else, as you would if you were in a startup or for that matter, any enterprise at any level. You have an ICP, there's people out there who you want, or companies out there who you want to attract. You have subject matter expertise, that's your product, and you go out and you get in those conversations and you show them what you're made of. And you do that through social media, you do it through networking, you bring a lot of value, you write content, you connect people, you just be valuable in that space, and over time people are going to realize that your personal brand means X. But a good thing to do is to start ahead of time and saying, what do I want my personal brand to actually mean? So when I come into a new company as CRO, I will, very early on in that process, I will go through an exercise with the team and say, all right, so we're team XYZ company. What do we want to be known for? What are the attributes that we want people to use to describe us, adjectives? And I have this whole exercise that we do, and they all come out to be the same thing. We're intelligent, we're innovative, we're customer facing, you know. But nevertheless, you go through that process, and then we all agree on how we want to be seen, and then go find a way to deliver on those attributes. Do it for yourself.
Interesting exercise.
I
Perfect.
think this gentleman had a question.
Let's have it after the panel, because
Oh.
I think everybody else, So anybody has any question, you can ask them after the event. And thank you everyone for coming. And if anybody needs more customers, I'm going to be sending free trial for 30 days to everyone. And by the way, Silicon Valley Bank is using this, and they're booking 7 meetings for every 30 outbound messages. So with LinkedIn, email, everything. So try it out for free. If you like it, stay with us. If you don't. Yeah, that's also no access after this. Thank you for coming. Any questions? Yeah, that's it.
How cool is that
I
guy?
didn't have a professional phone. I'll take one after this.
Saad, you should have told us to all wear sunglasses in our photo.
Too cool.
Awesome. All right, thank you guys. Thank you.
Nice work. That was great.
That was awesome, guys.
Yeah, nice work.
We need, you guys are smart.
Thank you.